You're listening to Des Plaines, Illinois Community Access Radio, brought to you by the Batman Universe Podcast Network.
Bruce Wayne's World, Bruce Wayne's World, fighting crime, Harvey Dent, ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na, Bruce Wayne's World.
Joe Wapo, welcome to Bruce Wayne's World. Well, I'm in your home, so I should ask you to welcome me.
Yes, thanks for having me here.
This is episode 60
something.
60-something, you know. We're in the golden years, maybe.
Well, 60's the new 30.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Yeah.
Nice to be here with Joe. This is the first time, maybe 2 episodes, 3, that we've actually been in person. No, 1. The last one we did remotely was the Justice League review.
I'm glad I have that much impact on you, Jimmy, that you recall it so vividly.
Let's get right into brass tacks here. We are going to do, I think, sort of a recap of what Justice League means for the DC Universe. There's a Forbes article that points out that the length of time for Avengers is similar to the length of time that Justice League had
meaning the films leading up to it, like there was just as many films or one more film leading up to Avengers than there was leading up to Justice League. And I mostly agree with that article, but like it definitely, I don't know, like Disney and Marvel, like they definitely don't have all their ducks lined up in a row like everyone wants to make believe, you know? I mean, they had to sell their best characters to Fox just to pay for most of this stuff.
Which they're about to get back on Thursday.
And it's worked out, you know, stellarly for them, and they've done a good job with it. And I think, like, because Warner Brothers waited so long to release Justice League, I mean, they had a Justice League movie in the works before Avengers.
Oh, yeah, with the director of Mad Max.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, I think there was even another one, like, in the works, too, discussed about. But they could have easily been ahead of the ball and not relegated to the imitating, like, those accusations of imitating Marvel. But instead, no matter what they do, they're either imitating Marvel or not doing as well as Marvel. Like, if they went out and gave us a Wonder Woman movie, a Superman movie, a Batman movie, then did a Justice League movie, everyone would have said, you know, oh, you're copying Marvel's formula for success. But honestly, I think that would have been, I would have rather had those accusations than the accusations that your cinematic universe is rushed and just a cash grab and shoddy work, which there are elements of a lot of that.
So basically, the Kevin Feige is the producer at Marvel.
That's Feige. Isn't it Feige? Yeah, I think so.
Whatever his name is. That's the reason that the Marvel universe is so cohesive. And these films don't have that cohesiveness. They wanted Snyder to do it, and you have situations that arise where he can't do it, whatever. You bring in other people. It's just too many different clashing styles.
It's really just Warner Brothers, because I really think that's what fucked up Batman v Superman. I mean, and a little bit of Zack Snyder, but for my money, that director's cut is a pretty solid movie. It's the theatrical release that sucked. Like, I was bored out of my mind in that theater. You know, and same thing, Justice League, the problems I have with it, overall, I love the movie. But if I were to ask, I know there's like a poll, like there's a poll for a Joss Whedon cut, and there's a poll out there for a Zack Snyder cut.
We're never going to see those, because they don't really exist.
Well, yeah, Zack Snyder's exist more so than a Joss Whedon, I think. But I would much rather see the Zack Snyder cut, because it does seem to fit that trilogy of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and then Justice League, the parts that Zack Snyder, you know, Vision still, you know, the ones that still made it to the screen.
To that point, though, I think that we agree that Joss Whedon's influences on this film took the things that they may have done wrong and retconned them in a way, like having Superman
I mean, ultimately,
be reborn.
I just think that, I mean, there's no way, given the hand that they were dealt, that they would have turned a profit. Like, they had to put so much money into it. They put more, like, Zack Snyder's responsible for a large part of that, because, you know, he always, you know, has a huge budget. I mean, or has for a long time now, and uses every penny of that on just great cinematic effects and just a visually stylistic scenes. But then you take that, then he had to drop out. Then they paid how much? Like it was millions of dollars in reshoots. I mean, I think we're talking about
Superman's mustache alone was $3 million.
Right? Yeah, we're talking I don't know, 8 figures or maybe 9. I don't know. I think it was 8 figures.
I don't have the exact figure in front of me. I could find
it.
Right, but
after all that, they had to make over $700 million to even make a profit.
That's
after advertising,
advertising, all
and
that
people
stuff,
forget that
right.
does also include DVD sales, merchandising, and all that is factored into that stuff. So they could still at least break even or make a small profit, but generally, just discussing the theatrical release, even domestic, they want to see that double that right out
this
the boat.
This movie should have made, in their eyes, domestically
$1 billion,
$600 million,
yeah,
right? And overseas totals
yeah.
like 1.1. That's what they were expecting. Avengers level.
But they didn't and I agree with that argument. They didn't set up like a bunch of characters you cared for. I mean, people had problems with Henry Cavill's Superman, and rightfully so, even though I like Henry Cavill and I like his look, but you haven't really had that quintessential Superman movie yet. You had the Wonder Woman movie, what I was not plussed about, but I get, I love Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I love, Ben Affleck's Batman, but he didn't really have his own movie, really. I mean, so you're not really vested in, waiting to see all these characters come to the screen together. Us comic book fans are, because we've grown up with them on the page, but a lot of people haven't, so, and that's where they're...
Absolutely, and random fans off the street don't have that build-up, I talk to people about Justice League, and I'm like, well, have you read this, or this? And I'm giving out big-name books, like Killing Joke, or have you ever read, for Superman, like The Death of Superman, for example?
Really,
do you remember that? And they're my age. They're like, what?
Did you hear they're redoing
Superman?
They're making another animated movie, two-parter of The Death of Superman and The Superman Lives?
They should, because that one was
Doomsday,
done very
But this one seems they recognize that, and they're making
That was a big part of the mythology of DC, and that might be another thing, is that Marvel might be more accessible. DC is very...
They weren't going into the gate. I mean, no one gave a shit about Iron Man. I mean, right. I mean, they gave a shit about Spider-Man. Yeah, Wolverine. Maybe the Hulk in the 70s, or the Thing in the fantasy.
Sure.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they found a formula, and my problem...
They made people care about Thor.
Right. Yeah. I still don't, but I mean, I haven't seen Ragnarok. But,
it was good.
Yeah. But they are formulaic at this point, and I think they're burning themselves out too. But to date, they've still made money. So, I mean, they're doing something right? And I generally enjoy the movies.
Doctor Strange movie that did very well with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I enjoyed that movie, even though I found it predictable.
The Aiken to DC might be like, could you see Zatanna having her own film at this point? I cannot.
Yeah, I could see the Shadow. I think that's who Doc Strange is. He's
that would
Shadow.
Be, but the magic side, they when Iron Man came out, people were saying, how can you introduce Ragnarok or, Asgard and all that stuff, and Doctor Strange, and make it make sense.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
That comic book is awful.
And it was their number one for a while.
I still think that's probably at least the top 3 of their best movies. I'm not a big fan of the Avengers movies.
First one's probably my favorite Marvel film next to
I also
Iron Man,
like the first Captain America. A lot of people say the second one, Winter Soldier, I think the first one.
And they even have something like, Hugo Weaving being
Red Skull.
Red Skull, which is perfect. And then that fell by the wayside, but they're
Hugo
still
Weaving
doing
doesn't
well.
I don't know. So, but they changed their lineup going forward now, right? We don't have a solo Cyborg movie announced on the DC slate.
So, for sure, we have Aquaman, because it's filmed.
Yeah, Flash.
We have Flashpoint, which I think will probably, and we'll get into this next, Ben Affleck's last Bat performance. And then I know Cavill signed on for one more solo Superman film, but...
I think that these people will sign on it if they can start getting critical acclaim along with, because if they've been in so many flops right now, it's just going to kill their career to stay with these characters. They're going to be remembered as the shitty Superman or the shitty Batman, even though they're not the shitty character. It's just the movies are not, and I'm coming at this saying I did like Batman v Superman, I did like Justice League, but there are Like, it's not 89 Batman. It's not 78 Superman. It's not,
It's not Linda Carter Wonder
Right.
Woman. But the
Well,
Wonder Woman thing, ironically,
yeah.
is the only one that I think we're going to be guaranteed
yeah.
to have future films.
Oh, yeah. They got Wonder Woman 2 coming out before the first Batman movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we could transition to that, unless you have another point on.
No.
Matt Reeves clearly does not want Ben Affleck.
Is it that clear?
It seems pretty clear to me.
I think it's more like the other way. Ben Affleck doesn't want to keep doing this shit.
So in my mind, when we heard the Gyllenhaal rumors, is that
No, that's just...
it's going to be
garbage.
set 20 years in the past or 15, which would kind of make sense, even though I think Gyllenhaal's only 10 years younger than Affleck.
Well, we've discussed... Yeah, I mean, Affleck could look younger if that was the case. I mean, he doesn't look... I think he is, like 50? Or maybe is he 40?
48, I think Gyllenhaal's.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look that... They're Hollywood actors. They have Botox and like hair plugs
money.
and whatever. Yeah, they got money to look good. So...
But it seems that there's definitely, from maybe both sides, and we won't know until maybe after the movie comes out, that Affleck will probably not be Batman.
That's why I think it's mutual. I think Affleck's a big enough name that they would tell Reeves he's Batman if Affleck really wanted it. I don't think
Which
Affleck...
is what they told him with Batman versus Superman.
What's that?
They're like, Ben Affleck, you're Batman, and we're going to give you this Batman movie. And slowly but surely, the pieces started to fall away from there.
Right. That's why I'm saying it's more Affleck than Matt Reeves.
Sure.
But I do also agree that Matt Reeves, like, making him an older Batman boxes you, and I've said this numerous times, puts you in a hole like where you can only tell certain stories. Now, like, you've already had a dead Robin. They've already established all these things. You've already seen the Joker. There's a relationship there. You can't, do a year one or a year two Batman. There's so many stories you can't do.
You can with a younger actor.
Right.
Which is my point, which is why Gyllenhaal, to me, makes sense, especially if it's going to jive with that Scorsese Joker.
But then I didn't see that on the DCU slate, but unless maybe they're just discussing the combined universe ones and then still putting out these other... Because that wasn't on there, the Joker. There was Suicide Squad 2, unless that's... But I don't know. That's another thing that's gotten a lot of flack from people, but I think that's the smart move. Like, that's why I always liked Detective more than Marvel. Like, because... I mean, to a certain degree, like, there's Marvel Max, and those comics really stood alone, and that's why I like them. Same with DC. Yes, you had Justice League, but you also had, Legends of the Dark Knight and all these, like, standalone little issues. You didn't need to understand Green Lantern to follow Batman, or vice versa. And Marvel, you kind of, like, and some people like, and I'm not saying one is the right way and one's the other, but if you really want to stand apart from Marvel, you don't do a combined universe. Or solely that. Maybe you do a couple combined universe, but then you do a multiverse.
Which we've spoken to, and the reason for that, at least when comics were being written, is that DC was earlier. You had different writers doing different things, which were eventually combined. Marvel worked from the ground up with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. So I agree with you. I think that we could have individual stories that take place in their own kind of canon, but then fuck it, go for it. Have them all come together and fight Starro, and for an epic.
Right.
And does it need to make sense? To a degree,
and I don't know, this whole, like, Rotten Tomatoes and everything. For one, I would rather the fans expected so much of their DC films that they didn't take shit and were expected, like, 5-star movies, high quality stuff, than to be shown Justice League and say this is the greatest comic book movie of all time. Which is kind of what happens with every Marvel movie. Every time it comes out, it's amazing, and this is the new pinnacle. There's nothing can be done
the
better.
humor in it was so good.
Right.
Man, I don't always want humor. I want things that are going to progress.
Right, and there are exceptions in the Marvel. I'm not bashing Marvel for no reason, but there are exceptions. But for the most part, like, it's very formulaic. I know exactly what's going to happen in the next scene. And I just things change. Everything's cyclical. Like, you go back to the 80s when we had Marvel was putting out Howard the Duck and the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie, and we had 89 Batman.
There was even a Man Thing in the 80s too.
Right, yeah. Even in the 90s. So, granted, I hope this is not the golden age of comic book movies. I hope it still has a long run left and we're not all burned out on
I think
it.
we passed the golden age.
You think so? I don't know.
think the golden age was Spider-Man 1, 2, the first
I
two
hate
X-Men,
those. I hate
Batman
those.
Begins, Dark Knight.
I did enjoy it. But I don't think the Nolan are the pinnacle of Batman. I think you can tell a better
You could do
Batman.
it better.
Yeah. Not me personally, but I think you could
just
do
said,
it.
Or I just said that you could.
Yeah, I could do it better.
You're
right.
Put your money where my mouth is.
Put my tackle. Your mouth.
But clearly this universe is now a financial mess, and there's people who make a lot more money than us discussing these exact same things and trying to figure out.
Yeah,
You know
I think
that
what it boils down to is a bunch of people that don't know what the hell they're doing control Warner Brothers right now. I mean, they've been responsible for some great movies, Casablanca and fucking, I don't know, some other bullshit.
Looney Tunes, which they're not doing anything with.
Animaniacs.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're like, Steven Spielberg, do you want to come back? Or I'm sure he may even be asking, like, yeah, I'll do it.
And yeah, right now they don't understand what this pop culture, like comic book, what we expect.
I want to take a quick detour here, Joe, with the Fox buyout.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Disney might acquire Warner Brothers in 10 years, 5 years?
I remember when Disney acquired Marvel and everyone was like, oh, like how were they going to make like a G-rated Wolverine and all that, and it worked out well. Like, frankly,
the Fox had the rights until
right. I'm saying like this was like a decade ago, right, when they bought them initially, but like, well, whatever. But I don't know. Like personally, like whoever makes the good movies, they make good movies. I mean, I don't know if I really want to see a combined universe. What was the combined universe? Marvel and DC
there was two. There was Amalgam.
Yeah, Amalgam. Yeah,
and then there was also DC versus the Marvel universe, and then there was JLA.
Okay.
Well, the DC
right,
versus.
Right. Short answers, please.
No, I don't want to see.
I don't want to see it. I mean, I don't know.
No way, because they don't jive the same way.
I mean, I could see like maybe if they did so well, and you had like this fully flushed DC universe, and you're kind of running out of ideas. But I don't see running out of ideas. Like, the comic books have been doing it for 75 years. Run out of ideas. Granted, they did do Amalgam too, so I guess I don't know. I'm contradicting myself. But yeah, what were you saying?
My point is that it just seems like Disney's buying everything, and that Disney could probably veer this in a way that will satisfy regular moviegoers, consumers, but at the same time, hardcore DC
own
fans.
Pepsi too. They own McDonald's.
Pretty soon, we're just going to be hooked up to VR, and
next thing I know, I'm going to have some guy coming in here with Mickey Mouse ears, telling me what to do. Say he owns me.
So, I guess in conclusion, I want DC and Warner's to do right by the comics, but also make movies that regular cinema viewers can appreciate, and we haven't had that yet, and based off the box office numbers of Justice League, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think the answer is making everything all like happy-go-lucky fun. Like, I like a darker movie.
Deadpool was R. Logan was R.
Well, there's still humor. I mean,
a bit, but now with my point, I guess, was Disney's buyout. Are we going to be able to see movies?
I just don't want to see like, and I feel like that's what they did with Wonder Woman, and they tried to do with Justice League, is make a Marvel movie that has DC's logo on it. I don't want to see that. Like, I want them to be a little creative. I know you're trying to make a bunch of remakes and sequels, and I don't know, it's counterintuitive.
Make Superman feel like Superman.
Right.
Make Batman feel like Batman.
And if you can't figure it out, get some people in here that can, be at least creative consultants, like Jeff Johns and fucking, I don't know, maybe Frank Miller can strike it out of the park again. It's been a couple decades. Yeah, never mind. Scratch that. The Spirit. Remember the Spirit? Oh my God!
They're like, hey, Sin City did well. How about we give you?
Hey, remember all that iconic Will Eisner artwork and splash pages and everything else? Yeah, fuck that. I'm doing a Frank Miller style because I'm awesome and so great. Fuck.
It turns out
God.
Robert Rodriguez was the real reason that movie was decent.
Sin City.
Yeah.
Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum.
So I guess a final thing here, and this is the rumor. And John Hamm was one of yours, right?
Yeah. Well, I thought it was yours too.
I had
So I went over to the John Hamm to the side of John Hamm. My original, I like Joe Manganiello, but now they have him as Deathstroke. This guy's like 6'4". He's solid muscle. He looks like fucking
he looks
Bruce
awesome
Wayne.
too as Deathstroke.
Yeah.
By the way. Yeah.
And then they got to gray him up for that. But, I could see John Hamm. He's like the same type of actor as a Ben Affleck. Maybe a little bit, a higher quality actor. I don't know. And I could see him, 6 months in the gym looking like mad Bruce Wayne.
I think
like,
he could do it too, and he's a similar age to Ben, and I like an older Batman.
Me too. Yeah.
And I think that he could do it well. I'd personally rather have him than Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, yeah.
But,
no way.
we won't really know until...
I would see Jake Gyllenhaal more as Nightwing than... he's older, I get that, but once again, Hollywood people,
What's funny is Gyllenhaal was my Superman pick.
Oh my God, that was fucking horrible.
We have a little bit of fan interaction here. Someone,
the guy you're flirting with?
Nick Callis said for his old Bruce Wayne, he wanted Holt McElhenney.
So who's that from?
He's from Mindhunter.
Oh, right. Well, that guy? Well, he's got a good voice. Like old, like Dark Knight Returns.
Correct.
I don't know how tall is that guy. Look, I also like that this guy you're flirting with has a picture without his shirt off.
Yeah, Nick Callis, keep the shirt off pics going if you want us to keep responding, because if you've listened to past episodes,
you know the way to Jimmy's heart. This is a guy with his shirt off.
So let me find out his height, I guess. But
yes.
Yeah, John Hamm is a fucking great actor.
Yeah, I could definitely see him as Batman. I had another pick too. But he was the guy from I don't know. He's my fourth pick. But Joe Manganiello or we've always talked Dark Knight Returns. I'm sorry, but my Mickey Rourke is still my guy. But I can see this guy.
Mickey Rourke's mine too. Holt's 6'1".
All right,
He is 54.
He'd have
makes
to,
sense
he'd have to work a little of that pot belly off though, right? It seemed like that, but he definitely has that demeanor of if nothing else, I could see him as aged up a little bit as the Gordon from Dark Knight Returns.
Sure. You look at these photos of him, he's got that kind of square You know who he may be really good for, and you might
yeah. He looks like a young Mickey Rourke.
Yeah?
Josh Brolin's still my Dick Tracy pick. Looks like he was on Friends or something. Just look at that picture, and doesn't that be that's a still from the show Friends? Or Frasier? When you think that just by...
He looks like Thomas Hayden Church to a degree.
I don't know who that is.
Right there, from Wings and from
yeah,
Sideways.
okay, yeah.
I
think young Mickey Rourke, 9.5 weeks.
Yeah, he's a decent pick for an older one, but Matt Reeves, man, figure it out, please, and quick, because we want a Batman film.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? I still... Well, see, I think the way to, end a trilogy is where they kind of fucked with Dark Knight Rises is do Nightfall. But you got to establish a lot of these characters, and you have to have a ton of cameos at the end. That's where they kind of fucked up, in my opinion.
Which in Suicide Squad, you just introduced these
oh my God, let's not get on too much of a tangent.
So, I guess
things I hate.
Next up, we're kind of looking at an updated, this was 12/10.
You want to keep blowing that guy you met on Twitter?
That'll be for later.
Okay.
That comes later.
Very nice. Yeah, if you cupped your mouth.
So there was movies that weren't mentioned at the recent announcement from DC.
Cyborg
was omitted.
Standalone Joker.
Deathstroke was omitted.
Wait, they were going to do a Deathstroke movie?
They were.
I remember that.
Gotham City Sirens, Harley Quinn, Joker versus Harley Quinn, Nightwing.
But Suicide Squad could be I don't know. They have Batgirl now. Maybe that's what they're called, Gotham City Sirens.
Could be, but I don't even
look
know
at that year, 2020. You got
movie.
Suicide Squad 2, Batman, and Batgirl all in the same year.
So I guess for sure we have Aquaman, which has been filmed,
right.
Flashpoint, which I think is going to go
I'm
ahead.
so excited for Flashpoint.
I think that might be the movie that really... They figure it out, and they're.
I hope so. They need to work on like I said, they need to look at Quicksilver from that X-Men Days of Future Past. That's how you do the Speed Force.
Yeah, and they did that to a degree. We discussed this in Justice League, but you have Shazam, which is happening.
Yeah.
I guess Batgirl still. Green Lantern Corps. If you don't do that, Warner's, you're fucking something up.
Yeah.
The Batman, which is obvious. and Justice League Dark.
Because they were talking about Green Lantern Corps. I mean, that's their Guardians of the Galaxy, like a space buddy cop movie, is what they were talking about.
It could be that. It could also be the Star Wars.
That's the way they described it.
Yeah, of Warner's DCEU, and it can also kind of be Lord of the Rings-ish.
Or a space buddy cop movie.
Buddy cop movie.
But I can't remember if they're like Hal Jordan or Guy Gardner. I think would be cool. But I know they're going to go with the Jon Stewart. But I like Guy Gardner.
All of them.
Guy Gardner. Well, they have to at least do a little and keep the bowl cut
for Guy
and those big boots. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they do, and the big lapels.
Shoulder. Yeah. Lapel and the shoulder pads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bowl cut. And have Batman come in and punch him in the fucking face.
Oh my god. Yeah. All right. What else we got going on there?
I think that might be it as far as like the big stuff goes. Let me take
There's a ton of news, man. They released the Robin picture for the new Titans.
Correct. I'm sorry. The Robin photo that you showed me from the new Teen Titans series, which is debuting on DC's.
Titans. Yeah, which I still can't figure that out.
Well, Disney's having one. Warner's with DC,
but it's DC, not Warner.
Sure. So you're going to have a DC one you need to subscribe to if you want to see this.
And what are they going to have? Titans and what? I don't get it.
They're probably going to have all the animated films. They're probably going to have all the live-action films. That stuff will be pulled from Netflix if it's on there.
But see, then you would subscribe for a month and then be like, all right, I'm done. Like, unless they put out new content, like, every month and substantially enough to watch, to not be able to watch all of it every month. I don't see...
They're probably going to put Arrow on there, Flash.
I mean, they have to make it really cheap.
Supergirl.
Really cheap. Like, I'm talking like under $5. Like $3.
Probably going to be like $8.
That's ridiculous. I don't know. I'll probably just... That's where they fuck up. Then, like, I don't know. Unless I'm mistaken and they do like the Warner Brothers, or it's DC, but there's other shit. Like, I'm going to watch their stuff, but I'm probably going to watch it illegally if I have to pay $8 a month.
It's the same thing with CBS and this new Star Trek show, Joe.
Yeah, that I've never heard of until like 2 days ago because it's on some streaming service.
It's on
CBS no one knows
All
about.
Access, and they're only
which
exclusives.
I've just heard of that for the first time right now.
So not to get too off track, but Star Trek fans have the same opinion as you, and will either subscribe for 2 months and and then ditch it, or you do what I do and you find it somewhere else. We're not condoning piracy, but we're saying that you can
look the other way.
Yeah.
And it's easy to do because I wear an eye patch and I have poor peripheral vision.
I guess there's one more big piece of news. It's a script for Will Beal. What? And Ben Affleck's Justice League movie has surfaced.
Yeah, that was the other one.
Downright epic.
Yeah, that was pretty good. You should go read through that.
I'm doing that right now. If you can go for a little summary while I finish this up.
Did not. I posted that to our Facebook page, and I read, I forgot it. I don't remember. There was something about... Batman was in it.
So Ben Affleck was in talks to direct the version of Justice League before he signed on to play Batman, which I'm sure handshakes, will let you do.
What year was this? This was before Avengers.
Looks like 2011 here is the year I'm reading. Darkseid would have been the main villain. Mm-hmm. You would have had an apocalypse scene, the planet that fucking
with
controls.
A K.
Right, that you barely saw, if you even did, in Justice League. I can't even remember anymore.
No.
Well, it seemed like Steppenwolf was trying to turn Earth into a form of apocalypse for Darkseid. And that's me as a huge DC fan.
Okay, anyway.
Reconciling shit. You would have had more Lex Luthor. You would have KG Beast. You'd have Killer Croc, which makes sense because you fucking introduced this character, right?
Yeah.
Lex Luthor
at
the end.
This is before Suicide. This is 2011.
Correct. So it's before...
Right. It seems like they some Warner's executive remembered these names from this pitch and was like, yeah, throw these people in a movie 7 years later.
There you go. That could be... Yeah, I think you're right. So that was Act 1. Act 2...
There's something about Killer Croc fighting, I don't know, the King Shark or something. I don't know.
Batman goes to Themyscira. You have Jon Stewart in this too. You have Oa, which is the Green Lantern's planet. Mm-hmm. It looks like you have a bunch of Green Lanterns. It seems like a busy film that, if done well, would have been a DC Comics fan's wet dream. Batman has a new team called the Batman's Berserkers. This is Act 3. He's joined by Deathstroke, Captain Boomerang, Huntress, and Cheetah. And their headquarters is Superman's Fortress of Solitude. Didn't see that in Justice League.
Yeah.
Lex figures out how to send Flash back through time. He basically does this whole crisis thing where he's warning people, which that tie-in, by the way, to BVS. Are we going to get that again?
I'd probably imagine a Flashpoint or something. I don't know.
Right. So
it did seem weird because it's like that he kills Lois Lane somehow. I don't know.
So basically, in this version, you have Batman's team, the Green Lantern Corps, and the Amazonians all joining forces to bring down Darkseid. And that sounds like a really cool comic.
Yeah, it's a Ninja. They did the trailer for Batman Ninja.
So, no, normally, Joe, I'm not a big anime fan, which may be the reason that I skipped over this. But, after watching that trailer for the second time,
it was pretty good.
Looks really good.
The animation looks really good, and everyone's all samurai'd out. We got the Joker, Batman, Two-Face, Catwoman, probably missing some, all samurais. And it's
really good animation, too.
It seems like it's in Japanese or something.
With subtitles.
They're like,
Animator's name is Kamikaze Suga, which you think might not be a real name. But this is definitely something I want to check out, and this is like the kind of cool off the wall shit that I appreciate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Batman's got a long lineage of like bootleg manga, and it's kind of cool that they're like been embracing it of late. Also, we didn't really discuss. This is kind of old news, but that Gotham by Gaslight we discussed when they had like the teaser trailer, but then they released a real trailer for it. I'm really excited about that.
I'm not the biggest Elseworlds fan as much as you are, so I didn't watch that trailer. I know that you and I know that Daniel are a fan of that.
I actually like Batman Houdini, which is like the sequel to Gotham by Gaslight, you can call it, because it's the same time period and all that. Instead of Jack the Ripper in the first one, it's like Dracula and M, like the Peter Lorre serial killer, but it's the Joker. Like the Joker is M. I love that and the artwork. That's the one. I was one of my book reviews. But I also we should review Gotham by Gaslight. Maybe when this book comes out, we can do the comic book and
maybe do a double feature.
Yeah.
The
same thing in different formats. Really nerdy.
Kind of like how we're talking about Batman on film and Batman in comics.
Yeah. But yeah, the manga thing. I thought there's another movie coming out. Oh yeah, there's the Scooby-Doo meets Batman Brave and the Bold. Have you seen the trailer for that? Oh my god. But you just recently, we made you watch a couple of the Batman Brave and the Bold.
Daniel just picked up like a DVD set.
I love it.
He also got the box set, like the collector's one for the 66 series.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that, yeah.
With the Hot Wheel in it?
Oh, I don't have that one, but I have the full set of
the so
I'm missing like a part of season 2 of Brave and the Bold. But I really, like, as far as, like, the TV shows, like, it's tough to, like, quantify or put one over the other. All of them are so iconic, but I would say that I think Batman Brave and the Bold will stand up, in the future along with the animated series and 66 Batman. And it's so for the fans and for kids, too. I love it. It's its own thing. It's not trying to replicate anything else. It's a little bit of Adam West, it's a little bit of the animated series, but it's its own thing. I love it.
And there's like a lot of nods to DC continuity.
So many. Like, yeah, I mean, there are some episodes just like nonstop Easter eggs. So it's cool, and he's like the perfect Batman outside of the Adam West or like the Hanna-Barbera Batman to meet up with this modern day Scooby-Doo. So I'm really excited. That comes out in January.
Cool. So, yeah, I'm excited to see that too. I like all those old ones where it's Casey Kasem, Robin,
and a lot of other people. I think he was the Joker, and
could be,
he's Shaggy, Scooby,
the Super Friends era of things. So yeah, I can get down with that too.
But they did the other one. They did some, or was it? It was on Batman Brave and the Bold, and they purposely inverted the bat symbol colors on his cowl,
because there was a mistake that they did in Super Friends.
Yeah, and in Batman Scooby Doo, all the Hanna-Barbera
terrible
ones.
animation. But fun for nostalgia reasons.
Outsource things to China.
Which still happens, but...
Yeah.
Is that it for news, or is there one more piece?
That is it.
That's it. wanted to say one more thing. Daniel just showed me from your favorite animation era of the animated series. He showed me the episode where it's like kind of an Elseworlds, and Batgirl dies, and Gordon just goes apeshit.
Yeah.
I'd not seen that episode ever.
Really? That's what
And I
I
watched
say,
it
like,
twice.
when people, and I get, like, the love of the, you know, if I'm talking Batman, the animated series, my favorite is season 4. And I know they toned it more for kids, but if you're really, like, I would hazard guess that there are just as many iconic episodes in that season, if not more, than all the, than any other season. Like, I mean, and the animation was more fluid. I like the stylized, like, they really figured out what they were doing and just fine-tuned their characterizations of I love it.
What kind of bothers me, and this is a nitpick, is it's on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime.
Yeah.
One episode will be the opening to the original animated series.
So you can generally pick and choose, like, the Batman and Robin, or the original animated. Even on my DVD, it'll say which intro do you want, but there's no option for none. Like when I'm like binge watching, I'm like, I don't want to be watching that same 2-minute intro.
Which
every
is
20
Netflix
minutes.
lets you skip the intro,
Yeah.
which is fun. But yeah, so then they go to the Batman Superman Adventures intro, and it's haphazard. It doesn't make any sense. But we need to.
Just Amazon. That's not.
We need to. We'll never run out of material. People always say, like, how do you do an entire podcast to Batman?
75 years and counting of Batman.
Fucking A, man.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't all need to be current shit. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to do.
We can do every year in Batman.
And die before we finish.
And get 75 episodes out of that alone.
So what do you want to do next? Do you want to get into comic reviews? I think that's a long time coming.
Sure, we can do our comic book reviews.
So I'll admit, Snyder, not my favorite author. I quit All-Star Batman, but I had this arc that we're about to discuss where it's each issue kind of focuses with Batman and a villain.
Yeah, so first of all, we do have to say apologies. We do try and be all-encompassing about Batman news, but there are some things, like we've talked about before, like I really don't want to sit here and review Gotham.
We're not going to do Gotham, guys.
I think it blows. And if you are one of the people that enjoy it, good for you. You know, like, I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong, whatever, even though I am. But, like, I just can't, I don't want to sit here for half an hour just bashing something that somebody likes or someone agrees with. So I really don't want, same thing with the Telltale game. Like, I really want to try and, like, I don't really want to drop $25 on a game I figure I'll hate. Like, I hated the first season. I may still do it just to review it on here.
When it becomes $5.
Yeah,
which it will.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So and then not to say that I feel the same way about the comic books, but I feel like the recent issues up till now, and I'm more positive in what I've just read, have been a little lackluster for me. So when I went to pick up my pull box, I get a substantial discount from Pastimes and Niles.
Pastimes Comic Niles, we like to give you shout-outs, and if you want to give us money, that'd be cool, too.
Yeah, well, they're my employers, so they do kind of give me money. But
yeah, they used to give me money, too.
So I had to pick up. I spent, like I said, with my discount, like it was about $100, and it was all like Batman. And I was like going through, and I'm like, "There's ads for Suicide Squad in theaters." I'm like, man, it's been a long time since.
I was reading that. I think I took a screenshot of the one I was reading and sent you, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a little bit behind too.
So apologies. We will be catching up. We will be doing 3 arcs on this episode. Next episode, I'm going to we are going to do Batman and the Shadow, that arc, and the Shadow. If I love one character more than Batman, it's the Shadow. I think we should do episode dedicated to the Shadow, because he is really the precursor to Batman. If you like Batman, you'll like the Shadow. He's just Batman with guns.
Joe is much more familiar with this character than I am, but everything he's recommended to me, I've enjoyed. He even that Rocketeer thing that he's kind of in, they didn't have the rights, but Shadow's a good character, and if your only experience with the Shadow is that movie with Alec Baldwin, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Or even the radio show, like the Orson Welles episodes are pretty good, but I mean the pulps are fantastic. The DC, like there was a limited run, 13 I believe, or 12 issues. fantastic.
Is that the 70s era?
Mike Coletta, great artwork. Even the Dark Horse stuff from the 90s that came along with the movie. There's some really good stuff there. And Dynamite has put out some good stuff, like the Michael Uslan stuff. Like they did Year One, Death of Margot Lane. Those are two I would definitely pick up if you're interested in just figuring out. I'm sure you can find it in a trade paperback at your local comic book store or comic book convention. But essentially, and this was the first, so this is All-Star Batman issues 6 through 9, The Ends of the Earth, and it opens up with, like Jimmy says, like each issue is focusing on a different character. And I like it because it also is a different environment. So the first issue is Batman and Mr. Freeze. The second issue is
Ivy,
and she's this tree of knowledge type thing, and it's really in the desert, but this one oasis in the desert. The third one is in a swamp, and I forget the villain now. Oh,
is that Mad Hatter?
Mad Hatter. And then the fourth one is just I don't want to give away. Oh, so after Mad Hatter, hold on one second. It's been a while. I need to refresh my memory. Okay, then wait, that's Poison Ivy here. Wait, what happened?
Is that issue 7 you have in your hand?
Wait, I did screw up here. Apologies. This is what we have. This is 6. Okay, so 6 is Mr. Freeze. 7 is Poison Ivy.
8 is Mad Hatter.
And then 9 we'll get to. Okay, all right. Apologies. So what happens is Mr. Freeze unleashes this, I don't know, it's kind of a MacGuffin, but it's this virus that pretty much, it's like, they describe it as a dark spot, almost like the Never-Ending Story, where the darkness just keeps expanding and eating everything up. Remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that's pretty much what it is. They're trying to figure out ways to stop it. It seems to me like this is an arc that also goes into different issues or different titles.
It's sort of a build-up for his metal thing to a degree.
Yeah. And that's when I'm debating picking up. I don't know if I can add it to my.
I heard from other people that Grant Morrison has an influence in one of the stories there, so that's the reason I want to. But I fucking hate Snyder, man.
Yeah, I don't hate him. He's I don't know. Like, it's definitely hit or miss. Like, this arc I thought was some of his better stuff. Not Black Mirror or Court of Owls good, but it's the best I've seen from him in a long time. But anyway, like I said, it starts out with Mr. Freeze, and obviously he kind of takes down Mr. Freeze. Then we go to Poison Ivy, and he's trying to enlist her for.
I want to bring up one thing in that issue: the last panel when he's looking at Freeze, and he's kind of laughing at him, or to a degree, like mocking him. I almost wanted to put Mr. Freeze on the list of things that we're going to do later, but I didn't, because I really think that this character deserves better than this. Where
I didn't see it as him laughing. It's more like he's grimacing. Victor had loved the wrong part back then when he was 10 years old. He had loved the part first about the poem that was the ice that held the promise. He screams it now, screams it loud, screams it until his throat burns. I mean, I guess you can read it as a grin, but I mean, I don't know. I see it because Batman becomes infected with something like the hot death, it's called. So he's grinning. I think it's more like he's,
taken over. Like, yeah, sure.
I didn't read it as like anything that was contrary to Batman's character or diminishing Mr. Freeze's, but like essentially it's the typical Mr. Freeze he's going to put himself in a capsule, and when he gets out of this ice capsule or whatever, he'll wake up in this tundra with all these. It's pretty much everyone that's frozen their body since cryogenics has become a thing. So I'd imagine Walt Disney's hanging out with Mr. Freeze, and
with Hitler's head,
right? And Batman kind of fucks up his plans. I think Hitler didn't cryogenically freeze.
No, that's a joke, though.
That's the joke.
Neither did Disney, but
right. I've heard the Disney joke, but I don't know. And that he's a Nazi. But okay, so then Batman in the second issue goes to meet up with Pamela Isley, who is, and I liked this little arc with Pamela, that there's this tree of knowledge, the biblical tree of knowledge in the Death Valley, and it's this one tree in the desert. And she, like, when she's talking with Batman, who shows up later, she's talking about like how, like, pretty much the toxins. There are sometimes the tree will turn on you if you use it for wrong. Like, so they'll have like cures for cancer, but sometimes it can spread a plague too. And so she's really on this cusp of, does she help humanity, or does she use this tree to kill humanity to save, nature? And Batman is obviously voting that for humanity. And meanwhile, like, these camouflaged soldiers come in because they want to use the tree, and the tree gets blown up. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm getting a little bit too much in detail than I normally do, but this kind of
this arc kind of like it kind of personifies every villain to Snyder's what he wants to do in each issue, and some of that didn't jive for me that well.
We'll get into the I just want to. I'm going too detailed, but the synopsis, but like it's hard to describe. So the next one is the Mad Hatter. There's this obviously a technology to read minds or whatever, influence people. There's a cool scene in the opening where Batman's family comes up to him. So they say want to talk to him. Batman says sure, takes them all out, and the guy's asking or saying like, how'd you know? And he says, simple, because my family knows how to. He said fucking fight or whatever. It's the comic book swear. And then I don't know. It's kind of a. So the last issue is full of, I guess, whatever, twists and turns. So you find out, like, Batman is going to the Washington Monument, and a couple pages in, you find out the guy behind all this is, of course, you guessed it, Ra's al Ghul, right? If there's anyone that's going to be going around to destroy the world and be over Mr. Freeze.
Interesting thing in the beginning of this story is they say this is not Batman's story.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think this last issue tied it all together for me because, they keep going back. They call it cataclysm, plague, and solipsism. So it's the tundra, the desert, and the swamp. All these hard environments for humans to survive. Meanwhile, Ra's al Ghul Batman's going up with a motorcycle. He takes out Batman's tire with a sniper rifle. And meanwhile, he goes to celebrate with a bottle of champagne with a boo. All of a sudden, the bottle of champagne gets smacked over his head, and Batman's there. So it was really Catwoman, I believe, disguised as Batman, or I forget if it was Batgirl. And then there's this kind of battle of wits and brawn with Ra's al Ghul and Batman. There's a moment again where Ra's shoots Batman in the head, and if you find out that Batman has used the same technology that Ra's was using from Mr. Freeze, from Mad Hatter, from Poison Ivy to destroy the world, to manipulate his environment to think his plan was succeeding. So what he was seeing and visualizing this entire time was rioting on the streets, kind of the storm clouds over sky, and obviously Batman's head getting blown off, and then that illusion from the Mad Hatter's technology goes away, and he realizes it's just a peaceful, serene environment all around, and Bruce Wayne's still alive. And the champagne he used to clonk him over the head has had that it was a mixture of Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Mad Hatter's.
Sure. So it kind of culminates in that.
Which, I mean, I'm summarizing it, and it's been maybe a couple weeks since I've read it, so it definitely has that feel of like a little too complex. Like if they had flushed it out and made it a little simpler, like those big aha moments would have had a better impact. But overall, I thought it was a clever story and a nice way to have single issues focused on one character, and then have an overall arc. That was what we always talk about. Like, if you want to do a large arc, but do smaller stories so I can pick up one story, one issue, read it, and not have to pick up 5 if I don't want to. But you pick up 5 and you get a bigger payoff. And I like that about this run of Snyder's.
I don't think that the villains were and again, I kind of breezed through this book, folks, so I don't think that the villains were, in my mind, personified the way if I want like a one-issue Pamela Isley story, I want it to not connect to anything else. You know what I mean? I want it to be like her taking over Botanic Garden somewhere and trying to, kill a bunch of
like Pamela
whatever,
didn't really have
vegans or something like that. These vegans, right?
Pamela wasn't under Ra's al Ghul's spell, but she was used, and I really thought I liked her, story there. I liked the idea of the Tree of Life as a thing, this biblical or this mythical plant. I thought that was very clever, and I don't recall ever seeing that. With Pamela Isley. So I do think that maybe if you given it a little bit more time, you would appreciate some of the things, because I think especially her character was very well done. Mr. Freeze, I even like the idea, like the cryogenics. It's been done a couple times, but the fact that he's gathered all the people that have cryogenically froze themselves, and they're like kind of zombies for him. I also like the writing style is that there are very few word bubbles up until the last issue. And even then, it's only when absolutely necessary. It's all written almost like a novel.
I agree with that.
Whoever's speaking has a different color of font, but that's the only thing to determine one or the other.
And I want to kind of do a retraction. I don't hate Scott Snyder. I think he's a very good writer.
Yeah,
he did American Vampire, which is very good. He's done good Batman, but I just don't like I don't like what he's doing on Batman, and I'll get into that maybe as a comparison.
Generally don't, but I feel, me personally, I feel like I'm the one that's usually harsher on this, and I'm usually at least a point or two below you. I enjoyed, like, especially Roz. I enjoyed, that characterization. I enjoyed Poison Ivy. I enjoyed Batman a lot because it did use a lot of detective work in there. I think there were a lot of good lines. I mean, ultimately, would this be on my? I mean, I don't know.
No, it's not. If you want to get into Batman, it's not that book. The wax lips thing I thought was kind of cute, but
yeah, I loved it. And I think Pamela is usually sometimes I hate now where she has got that black bodysuit. They went more classic, but a little updated classic version.
There's also a pro and a con to me, without getting too much into the art, that there's a different artist on every book.
Yeah.
So each villain, to an extent, has their own portrayal that way, but
I like that. Once again,
I liked it, but I also like consistency.
But I think if they're doing this once again, we're taught we. I feel it's almost contrary to what we've been talking about, like having single issues. So you have a single issue with with art that fits Mr. Freeze, with art that fits Poison. I think they did a great job, because I think if the art for Mr. Freeze was in the Poison Ivy book, I would have hated, in contrary wise, I would have disliked both books, or not liked them as much. But I felt that the art for Mr. Freeze fit the character very well, just as the Poison Ivy did. Even the Mad Hatter, to a degree, I thought was pretty cool. Ra's al Ghul, I feel like that was back to, it was back to this guy Jacques. I think he just goes by one name, right? Yeah.
Jock, yeah. Jock's probably the best out of this.
I like the Kaminicola. I appreciate all of them. Jock is not usually what I like, because it's a little too, I would call it later Aparo, but a little bit more with a better knowledge of anatomy.
That's your big thing. To me, I guess I agree with your take that they all fit the story. And
it's very sketchy. Yeah.
It's this whole story is more cerebral than like a regular, which we'll get into next, like a regular arc, to a degree. Joe, I didn't read the backups, the Riddler thing.
Yeah, I think those were good too. Yeah.
If you want to give your a short,
I don't really want to they've been having these Duke Fox little storylines. I think it's called The Signal now. They've been going on for a while in All-Star. I haven't really covered them. I mean, it's a little too much to go into. But I'd say overall, even in the supplementals, there were parts I really enjoyed. The art's still solid. There's some part that's really more reminiscent of Darwin Cook. The art throughout the arc, I think, is pretty good. It's nothing exceptional, but it's good. And it fits stylistically. That's one thing that's very important. It fits stylistically with the story being told. If you like, like Jimmy said, more cerebral,
It's more of like right. It's a
detective, but I really liked.
I'm glad you liked it, and it just I when I was reading it, I'm like, fucking Snyder, and like to me it seemed like a chore a bit.
So,
but
and at the same thing too, like I picked this up expecting to hate it. I had stopped All-Star because I hate it, and I read this, and I was tempted to call the store and be like, "Put All-Star back."
I'll tell you, it's better than that Two-Face arc he did.
Yeah.
You know,
or that whole Midnight Run thing. Yeah, right. That's what you're talking about. Yeah.
Right. The train, whatever.
Yeah. Like I think I'd give this 4 stars. I really enjoyed it.
You've lifted me up from 2 to 3 based on everything that you've said, but
I don't think you gave it enough time. I think you went
you're entirely right.
And not to like it, and if I like, I think it's worth a second read. I'm generally harsher than you on Snyder. And I think there's more to this that maybe like that you didn't catch just reading over. Like I generally spend, if I spend less than half an hour on a comic book, I'm right.
Which I was. And I spent probably like 45 minutes on all 4 issues. So it was a quick read for me. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Because this is what we've talked. Like look how many you have 4 issues, 4 different villains, an overall arc. This is what I'd like to see more of with Detective Comics.
We're going to get to our third one is a standalone that I would say is miles better than any of these standalones. For $5 a book, even with the backups, though.
Well, don't jump ahead here. Come on.
Okay.
I mean, I recommended that one to Jimi because I'm like, yes, I agree. That's the best out of the 3. But I everything I read this month I liked, and that's very rare, and I'm very happy for it because I was getting disillusioned.
I'm happy too. I was expecting us to have an argument for our next one, but
I will say that I think that out of the one I like least is the next one.
Okay. So just to finally, I guess, summarize All-Star Batman. If you want more Batman, that's kind of I guess maybe Legends of the Dark Knight-ish. Go ahead, pick it up.
Go that far.
Okay. If you want stuff that's kind of out of
Batman.
regular continuity, even though it is because of the tie-ins to Metal.
No, I would say like that's the best. You could single issues with an overall arc. That's what I think. That's the best way to go. And that's all I can say. Like I'm not doing the plot justice. It's very complex. That's my one gripe is that I think they could have fine-tuned it a little bit more. Simpled it, down a little bit, simmer it down, get to the good bits, and then the naughty bits or whatever, the juicy parts, and then you would have had a better denouement, like a better climax and all that, better like twists and turns that would hit harder, rather than I found at times I'm like, okay, so how did that happen or what? So that ties back to that, okay, and it kind of brought me out of it, and I had to go back and read it again. It's my only real gripe. Overall, I thought, the art was good. The story was good. I mean, it was a better than good book. It wasn't a great book. It was a good book. Like I could go maybe 3.75 on it, honestly. But just round up to 4.
But do you think this added anything to the mythos of Batman? Of Batman?
I mean, I think it did a great job of even with Ra's al Ghul, with Poison Ivy, with all these characters. It made them different characters. It brought them together. I liked even just the idea of like the tundra and all, even though the swamp and Mad Hatter was, I mean, you could have done Killer Croc in that one instead, but I don't know, like what would Killer Croc add to bring Ra's al Ghul down?
Yeah, Poison Ivy's right. Poison Ivy definitely has, these are all kind of, to an extent, except for maybe Mad Hatter, supernatural villains of Batman. I can see to your point, and
I think
I glossed it over.
Take some time and reread it because it really made me want to just try and stick with All Star a little bit longer. But in the end, I didn't because I read 2 more issues after this, and I was nonplussed.
The number 10, I think, starts a new story, so I have that one. And I'm going to reread it. And I guess we'll continue reviewing All-Star if we can, yeah?
No, I'm not going to.
Oh, no, we're done.
Okay.
All right. Meat and potatoes here. War of Jokes and Riddles.
So this is Batman number 25 to 32, 8-parter.
Which sounds like a lot, because that would normally be 8 months, but it was 4 because it's semi-monthly / bi-weekly.
Yeah.
This is a story that I love. And you basically, it's told from the perspective of Batman explaining events to Catwoman when they're laying in bed. He's basically narrating, what would you say, Joe, like year 1.5-ish?
I think it's a little bit later than that, especially, well, I guess it's pretty early in his, but there's been a lot of death, like these characters aren't new, so it's within the first 5 years.
It's early Batman.
I guess he does say he was still kind of a rookie, so maybe year 3. I don't know.
Anyways, you have at the core of the story is you have probably Batman's 2 greatest villains, according to Joe and I at least. You have the Joker and you have the Riddler. Joker can't laugh anymore. Riddler,
which did harken back to like the old Aparo Joker. Remember, like that the Curtis Bass. I think it was on my book review, like from the early '90s, late '80s, where the Joker, after the death in the family, when he gets shot by that guy after killing Robin, he can't laugh and he walks around all mopey.
Yes,
and then the Joker impersonator named Curtis Bass comes around and he finally gets a joke.
Yeah,
so I was constantly reminded, especially as frowned of that Joker, that Jim Aparo Joker, but.
Right, and you have a Riddler here who initially is jailed up, totally breaks out of jail in a way that's amazing. But the crux of this is Riddler approaches Joker saying, "Listen, man, you need to laugh. I need to make sense of my own impetus, which is telling riddles. I need to perplex Batman. You need to laugh. Let's team up."
Or we both want to kill Batman.
Right.
One of us is going to do it and the other one's going to be upset, so why don't we do it together?
And what Joker should have done, which is what he did, is immediately
shoot him in the stomach.
Shoot fucking Riddler in the stomach. Riddler obviously survives, because otherwise that story would be done. And you have 2 gangs now warring between Gotham. Each controlling, and this is a part I didn't like, I'll get into, each controlling different sects of villains to a degree. And you see Joker finessing some, you see Riddler finessing others. Between it is Batman trying to maintain order in his city. So they have a
dinner party, and Batman decides which side he's going to go on, or he's going to give $1 billion, which doesn't ever have a resolution. I don't know. Did he give? Because he ends up siding with the Riddler.
Hold on. We'll get to that.
We can get into more detail but I'm just trying to do a synopsis.
Sure. Yeah.
There's also a Kite Man origin story we'll get into a little bit when he becomes a big part of the story. Spoilers, obviously, when we do these reviews. We wait long enough, you know. But yeah, like he has a dinner party to decide with both the gangs in his dining room. The joke at it ends like he says, "My mother would be very disappointed at me for not offering them coffee."
Yeah. I love that.
I'm going to get into like a lot of things.
It's like an 8-course dinner that Alfred's serving.
Because the more I think about this book, the less I like it.
And the more that you don't like it, the more I like it. So that's going to be fun.
Essentially, yes, he decides to go with the Riddler for some reason because he thinks it'd be better.
Well, he's the one he knew he could maybe control to a degree.
So they obviously the tables get turned. Kite Man gets his revenge, and obviously both gangs are taken down at the end, right? I mean, but you find out. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
So both gangs get taken down. There's an incredible Kite Man origin story that makes you feel for this character, but emotionally, Batman gets taken down too. And he's, at the end, when he's explaining what happened to Selina, isn't sure who he is. And the morals that are questioned in that really make you think about this character, to me at least.
What happens at the end is he comes close to killing the Joker, right? Or killing Riddler.
He was about to kill Riddler.
Stab him with a knife, but Joker puts his hand out and gets the knife through his palm.
Because he knows that Riddler poisoned Kite Man's daughter.
And
that adds a huge point of contention
it gets a little bit more deep. But
Sure.
in the end, like, all you really know is, like, the Riddler did start all this to make the Joker laugh because that was the biggest riddle of all, or some bullshit. I don't know. And that's why he did all this, because at the end, he's begging Batman for mercy as Batman's beating the shit out of him. And then he says, is he smiling yet? Batman goes, huh? And he's smiling like, you think he'd be laughing now, right? Like, after everything I did for him, and now I'm begging for mercy, you think he'd be laughing, right? Wouldn't that make you laugh? You still don't get, do I have to explain the joke to you? And in the end, like, the reason why the Joker laughs is because he saved the Riddler's life and stopped Batman from becoming a murderer. And that's the reason why Batman does. I mean,
So that seems to me real clear right now that symbiosis between the two characters and who started who is the biggest question in this, and that struck a real big chord with me.
okay, I want to start out by saying, like, I mean, you kind of built this up for me, and I was hoping to really like this, and you were saying, like, I think I might like this Riddler as much, and it opens up with, like, the Joker, or I'm sorry, the Riddler cuts some, like, he's pretty much like the Hannibal Lecter of the jail, and he pretty much, you know, he's trying to help the detectives are coming to him, asking him questions, and he ends up asking this guy a riddle, and then stabbing him, they say 26 times, once for each letter of the alphabet. And then he, as the SWAT team comes in, he starts naming names, and you figure out it's the spouses and the children of every SWAT member that's there. And gradually they start putting their guns down and parting ways as he just walks out of the building. And I was like, yes. I love this.
So that's kind of when that, because Joe obviously wants to kill every fucking
riddle.
right. Thank you.
I love that Riddler. Okay, it lost me when. Well, first off, like, okay, I can get behind how buff he is, even though he was always brains over brawn. Like, he doesn't need to be this solid, like,
with like 3 buttons down on the shirt. That was the one thing that bothered me.
That drove me nuts. So then he gets stabbed in the stomach. They have that little callback to '89 Batman with, "You see what I have to work with."
Oh my God, I loved that. Yeah.
But then he spends the rest of the 7 issues with his shirt unbuttoned down to his belly button to show off the scar the Joker gave him, and then he added the top of the question mark around it. And I don't understand why we can't get past the emo Riddler. Like, I just want to see the pink and green suit and the little domino mask.
You think that's emo?
That the Joker, the Riddler from this? Yeah, because that's the Riddler they had, like, 10 years ago, where he had his shirt on and he had plastic surgery, and then he put a question mark around his eye, and he had his shirt open the entire time. Like, I don't get why. It's the same thing like that Telltale Games, where they have a hood. They can't just put a suit on them. They have to put a hood that's connected. It's just so stupid.
Okay.
Like, who walks around, even at the dinner party, be like, okay, shirt and tie, please. We're having a formal dinner here. Like, I mean, does that even strike you as someone that's so intellectual? I mean, you would think, like...
It strikes me as a psychopath who doesn't give a shit about his appearance.
The Riddler, I think when he's written well, I like him better than the Joker. And, like, once again, Dark Knight, Dark City, love it.
Oh, have you ever read that, folks?
Yeah, this Riddler starts out so great, but that one is not a little thing to me. It's like a jock and a nerd type thing. The Riddler's a nerd. He's like he just knows everything. He does crossword puzzles. He knows everything. He has something to prove from his Napoleonic complex. That, I mean, just psychology based. Like, he needs to prove it. Just like Zodiac or you know, these other, there was Scorpio or whatever. Like, these guys, like, even if you look at even though Zodiac wasn't caught, he wasn't like this muscle bound guy. He was this overweight, and he was a nerdy type guy, like, based on the criminal profile. Like, to see, like, if you thought Ted Bundy didn't do that, the jock type guy. Because he didn't need to, because he was brawn. He was brains too, but he didn't. You understand what I'm saying? He didn't have anything to prove. The Riddler's all about having something to prove, but he doesn't need to have his. Why would someone that looked that good with chiseled muscles have something to prove?
I can appreciate your criticism of the art, because I don't agree with that either. But the scenes that have him deducing, like, everything, like when he, for example, is walking in the park with Poison Ivy and trying to convince her to come to his side, and all these guys are falling, and he's like, boom, 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 like, this is this guy, this is this guy. I loved all of that. The fact, I think they really did a good job with the Joker characterization, the Falcone scene, when you're introduced for the first, and here's another contention I have, is the villains are kind of already established at this point, and the one that's not is Penguin. And you have Joker, who sends Falcone his mother's teeth, and Penguin's like, your mother lives in Metropolis. That's 2.5 hours away.
Well, he gives him an hour to kill the Riddler.
Right.
And then when he comes back, he's like, here are your mother's teeth. I made a smile on your desk with your mother's teeth. Didn't you hear me? And then the Riddler puts on, well, that's 3 hours away, and you just gave him an hour, so that means he's putting in his head that you killed his mother before. Even later on after the dinner party, Bruce Wayne says to both of them, like, I trust that, you had hostages, and that's why he let them go, like, that you will release the hostages on good faith. Riddler says, sure. Joker says, I think I killed mine. I'll have to check. I'll look when I get home.
Right. So that kind of
love those.
Does the differences between these two characters.
My problem is, I love the first 4 issues. It's after that I just... Ugh.
So let's, I guess, get into the Kite Man.
Yeah, and that was good. I mean, I think it's a little over... there were news articles written about it. I think it was a little over celebrated, but it was good, I mean, it's too melancholy, too, I don't know, the Riddler, once again, the Riddler who would seem smarter, after you kill his kid, you think he's going to come to work for you? I mean, I think the Riddler would see through that plan a mile away. The Riddler's supposed to be brain. For him to buy that, I find implausible.
The fact that you have Kite Man dealing with all 3 sides somehow and gets out without dying, to me, was one of my favorite things about this.
You find out that he was that the Riddler wanted to make him Kite Man, but that's how that was the joke. That's the joke, yeah. Right? So to make a villain called Kite Man, that he had to do all these things to make him called Kite Man. That's why Batman was instructed not to take him down. That's why you see this montage, or it's not really a montage, but all these scenes throughout the first 4 issues of he's the last person that he's teamed up with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, who are cannibals.
Oh yeah, I
found that weird.
What else was weird was just seeing, to me, so I guess we're just kind of, spitballing here. Two-Face on, for, a minute on the Riddler side, right? You just see him there. It's Two-Face, to me, should have either not been in this, because Two-Face, I think, completes, a trilogy.
I don't see anyone taking sides. That's my main problem. Why? And why they have the gang. It's like No Man's Land, but not as well thought out. Why would... It doesn't make sense to me. Why? And I kept thinking that too. A lot of these characters, why is this person with that? I think Cluemaster would make more sense to be with the Riddler, even though they fought before in the comic books, and even though Joker fucks with Two-Face, I would think maybe they would be together because they are. And Scarecrow used to they've teamed up with Joker numerous times, and he's on the Riddler side. And a lot of these things that make sense to me, and let alone why would they do it? What incentive do they have? They're just trying to hedge their bets. It's like a campaign. And trying to go with the winner? I don't know,
So this is all backdrop to me, Joe, and the big thing about this is really Batman telling Catwoman, am I better than these people?
But I think it could have been a lot done better if it was really just the Joker and the Riddler, and the Joker used his craziness, and the Riddler used his brains, and the city was being destroyed in the process. One of my favorite parts is when they're discussing the fight between Deadshot and Deathstroke, and it took 5 days for them to stop fighting.
And it's the death count building. 5
days of crossfire.
Was so good, and they shoot the bullet at each other.
But imagine a drawn-out version of that with just the Joker and the Riddler.
Sure, and you have a war by proxy, I guess, with these sub-villains to a degree.
It's one of those things like that Midnight Run. I just keep calling it the Midnight Run that had such great potential, and it just kind of we'll veer off in a completely different direction. And this is garbage now.
Well, it, to me, was more about the characters rather than the story. And what's your biggest takeaway from this? Let me ask you that.
I just can't get over the button that fucking shirt.
Okay. To me, and I said this just a few minutes ago, is that Batman's trying to reconcile his own sanity and confiding in this woman that he clearly loves. And asking, am I better than these people? And it's, yes, you are.
But I think that there are better stories that have posed that same question and done it in a more succinct and better way.
Do you think the idea that Batman attempting to kill someone is going against things?
Because why? It didn't strike me why did he do it? It didn't make sense.
The idea that a child was murdered?
But the Riddler... Okay, the Riddler did do it, but he teamed up with him.
To take him down. At that point, he didn't know that yet.
I mean, even Kite Man, like, what? If someone did that, like, to my kid, like, I mean, there's no, like, you wouldn't be able to keep a ruse going and be in the same room with someone that killed your kid.
So we have the scene where Batman knows this, and, well, he knows that Kite Man's on the side of good, basically, and Kite Man comes in with those kites, and it's Riddler's folks, Riddler's people, and they break through that window, and you see, I think it's behind Joker's shoulder, and they fucking fly in, and it's like, okay, Batman's got this going down. Like, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, they need to get to the skyscraper.
Correct. And then Batman has that contingency for Riddler's followers who have the kites on them that he planned with Kite Man, where the parachutes blow them out,
And
back
up,
out.
And up
Yeah.
instead of down, like, yeah. And
So Batman thought he knew exactly what was happening, but once that revelation hit him, he had a moment, man, and he didn't want to deal with it anymore, and he wanted to just fucking kill him.
there are so many things in here that I loved, and there are so many things I hated, and I'm really conflicted by this story. Because I love that he keeps a tally of everyone that's died.
Yeah.
Like, he's got all their names and faces memorized.
I was looking for Easter eggs in
I
that
know,
too.
I kept doing it too, like if I recognized any names, which I think would have been cool. Like,
I don't think
even
I
like
saw
the guy
any.
from Killing Joke, I would have recognized if they put the fur hat on him or something,
Yeah.
killed by the Joker, the amusement park manager. Even if I didn't recognize, I would have recognized the hat or something,
Sure.
I mean, something like that I think would have been a cool little, or something from Dark Knight, Dark City. Like, I would have recognized the security guard from that, and you didn't see that, and I was a little disappointed by that, But
Sure.
I did overall like it. That's why I'm saying, like, I'm very conflicted by the story because there's things I loved, but I feel like it could have been a lot better, and they veered in a different way, and there's things I hated about it. And I can't get over again.
This is like
I cannot
a
express the Riddler's look in this.
This is like almost, and obviously comics are fantasy, but this is like a fairy tale almost type of thing where Bruce is describing all of these experiences to Selina, and man, dude, I just fucking love this book so much, and just like his arc, and just what can break Batman down, and can your fucking arch enemy save you to a degree, because that's exactly what happened. And what's that relationship? Is that where DC's going? And talk about taking things to a new way. Like, fuck it, do it where Batman is prepared to kill someone, but needs to be stopped by a madman.
I think if I was to summarize this book, it would be that dinner scene in the Wayne Manor, with Bruce Wayne hosting and all of the villains around. And there were pieces of dialogue I loved. The artwork, I will say, throughout this is fantastic. I loved it.
Two artists, but the Kite Man stories had
but not the Kite Man, but the general.
Michael Janin is the
but
artist.
There's more that I hated in that diner scene than I liked. There were great things, but overall, like the premise, I couldn't get past. I thought it was just so ludicrous and stupid. It's like an Archie book or something, like Muppet Babies or something, like something you'd expect on Gotham. Like, I'd expect little Bruce Wayne to have the entire Rogues Gallery over for dinner one night, and he's 17 years old, and I don't know.
When you have the entire city fighting each other.
But it's that thing that kind of because once again, like, just think the Deadshot Deathstroke was just Joker, like, and the fallout from that, just those two crazy people going at it, like two serial killers that locked the city up. I mean, think of like just Son of Sam and the Summer of Sam, like when they had the blackout and how that brought the city down, like in like the 70s. Just think of that, like you have pretty much like the Zodiac and I don't know, the Joker would be like, there's no one like that level, but I mean, like that level of like panic on the streets, and they're just so, and this rookie Batman, and he's got to figure out, like, I think that would have been a much more effective way of telling this same story than this ludicrous idea that all these villains and that Batman's going to team up with one side and invite them all over to his house for dinner, and it's just so bullshit.
But he didn't really team up, is my point.
I get, that's still stupid. Like, Batman could have easily, with hostages or not, like taken everyone out in Wayne Manor. Like
he could have done that, but then he'd have to explain
some contingency where he already had Robin and Batgirl or someone else.
But he doesn't have Robin or Batgirl yet.
JCPD going out and taking the hostages. Everyone's knocked out. Everyone's poisoned. Their water's been poisoned or whatever else, or the air, and everyone's out and it's done.
Okay.
Like, it just didn't make sense at all.
Because at that point, if you end it there, you don't get to what I really loved, which was that
or you
that
don't
question.
do all this shit. And once again, it's just the Joker and the Riddler. And they're like, they have the city hostage just with their crazy shit. Like, the Riddler does the Riddler shit.
This story isn't about, to me, it's about Catwoman and Batman. It's not about all that other stuff.
It's bookended, very few and far between. Like, if I'm just going to read those little tiny pages of two people talking in bed, I think the next story does a better job of that, too.
I agree.
So, I don't know. I just want the art once again was fantastic. I love the Joker's black tuxedo throughout it. That's something I think that they should do more rather than the purple. I love when he was wearing that black tuxedo. Any that embellishments of purple gloves, purple vest, purple lapel. I loved it. I thought it was a perfect
purple pocket square, maybe.
Yeah. I thought it was great.
Purple ascot, which he didn't have. But
overall,
maybe for the next
I'm disappointed because I really it's strange because I went in expecting to hate All-Star and I came out liking it. And I went in expecting to like this one or love it and at the very least like it. And I came in. I mean, I think I'm going to give it 3 stars because there are things I really liked about it, but button that shirt, Riddler. You don't need to do the P90X.
I'm able to look past these nitpicks that you have, which to you are clearly bigger than to me what was the bigger picture, which is just Batman coming to terms with who he is and who his villains are.
I would have been fine with him wearing the leotards. Even that.
I don't care about any of that shit, Joe. To me, it was just him.
Don't get me wrong.
You're breaking down with a person. And you're looking at your life, and to me, that was the. I
mean, I can look at the Joker and be like, okay, he's not smiling. I get that. The Riddler is even like they just want to make him like, even those sideburns are ridiculous. I mean, I had long sideburns too, but it was like a little bit neater. It is. Like,
if this was a story that didn't describe those things and was a novel, would you maybe have a different point of view?
Even when reading this, I imagined the Riddler how I want to imagine him. But
sure.
I still, when I look at that, it's just like I can't pretend it wasn't on the page. It's a big thing with me. I don't know.
I'm able to look past that for this emotional response I have to this show, and if I could give it a 6 out of 5, I would. It's a perfect 5. It's a perfect 5.
All right, well, the next one for me was a perfect 5. It was Batman Annual number 2. And I was we were going to just...
Man.
we were just going to leave off with War of Jokes and Riddles, but it was a 1 issue.
I'm so glad I finally read this book, Joe.
So I brought it to work. I started reading it yesterday, and I got halfway through it, and by today, I texted you and, pick this up. This is a 5 out of 5 for me.
It's quick.
I loved it. Absolutely. And I would say, I even text Jimmy, I'm like, this may be my favorite Catwoman story of all time. At the very least, it's on the top 3. And I really can't think of something I put, year 1, maybe but that's not really
maybe, but
story.
You don't have...
This is, I think this
So let's get, I guess, into the synopsis.
So it's essentially it's just kind of the same thing, the bed, they're talking about, it's Batman and Bruce Wayne Wayne Manor, and Catwoman keeps breaking into Wayne Manor. And she's stealing little trinkets, Batman's trying to solve one of the Riddler's crimes, and he goes, where's my pencil? And Alfred makes a funny little quip about, should we call the GCPD, or
he says, should we call the Superman?
Right, or should we look under the couch? And then he hears he hears a meow, and he starts chasing Catwoman. And it's a bunch of little things like that. She breaks into his house over the course of nights 3 times, stealing little trinkets and leaving a mouse behind. And finally, in the end, she goes back to her apartment. Before that, they have an altercation on the rooftop, and he's asking her, why? Why are you doing this? And she said, to make you a better person so you don't get killed out there. He said, why do you care? Do you care if I die? And of course, And you get this little, cutaway, obviously there's this romantic, or this sexual, sparks in the air, and she's reaching lower and lower, and Batman's kind of casually, don't touch my belt.
It's almost like a Batman Returns. Sure.
And then, of course, the smoke pellets go off, and she kind of
God damn it, she took my smoke pellets off me pretending to go for my dick.
Yeah, gray and blue balls for Batman. So after that altercation, she goes back to her apartment, and Batman's there. He does a little squeak like the mouse. And you find out like he traced her, which I think I'll give it a pass, but he traced her to her apartment by analyzing the mouse poo and finding lead paint that he traced back to her apartment, which I would think, especially in Gotham City, there's a lot more apartments with lead paint, but I'll give that a little bit.
Isn't there a line where she says, wait a second, did you know this the whole time? Right.
I'll forgive that for that line because he said, yes, mouse poo, and he smirks. Like, that's what caught you up.
Yeah, like, I got you.
They make out, and they have like a cute little thing about in bed. And it's obviously for the fans because he says, I remember when I met you on that boat when you took off your mask, which is the first appearance of Catwoman in 1940. She says, no, it was on the street, alluding to Year One from Frank Miller.
That's been a running joke with Tom King, which is why I appreciate him so much. And it's also, I would imagine it's alluding to Doomsday Clock because it's those two universes. It's Silver Age, Earth 1. Is this Earth 2? We have Helen and Wayne. We don't know yet.
Right, but this is where Earth 1 left off, where they get married, they have Huntress.
Yeah,
and
man.
all that. Right. So they keep arguing, then it flashes forward where they're old, and they're having the same argument. No, it was on the street. No, it was on the boat. And the doctor comes in with the results and says, pretty much,
Batman has cancer.
Right. Yeah, but they do it in a class, like they don't tell you what it is. But obviously, so Batman's, he's coming up with ways that, there's different Earths, maybe talk to Barry, and maybe we can find someone to just, protect you or just, to make you happy. It's what Batman's just trying to problem solve. Not like that he's dying.
He said that there's another Earth where he's young forever.
And it's very touching. Like, it was like...
Dude, I'm getting so emotional.
I know, I don't want to start like Kevin Smith, but it was like so well done. It wasn't hit you over the head. It was really well done. And like little things that allude to like his memory loss now too, because he keeps going on about like the mat or the Tulku or whatever this Dalai Lama or something that taught him memory skills, and he had to go back for cartons of cigarettes. Everybody's forgetting parts of the story. She tells him to turn out the light. Obviously he's told her the story numerous times. They're married. He forgets to turn out the light. He's trying to exercise. He falls down coughing. And eventually you fast forward a little bit and he's on his deathbed and the entire Bat family's there, including Carrie Kelly, Dick Grayson and all that. And she just tells him to go to sleep. And the story opens up with her going meow and stealing the Batmobile. That's what happens. And in the end, she goes, while he's on after he's died, or she says, I love you. She goes down to the Batcave, sits in the Batmobile. She hears a meow. It's a cat. And there's a card on it that says, I love you too. And the note that he gave her basically said, from the beginning to the end, I've loved you. And the relationship, like the artwork is so great. Like if I could give this,
I want to give a key line right now, which is, "Are you trying to fix me? No."
Yeah.
And you kiss.
Yeah. Full of lines like that.
And you if you want a story that's not like, if you give a fucking damn about love and you want to know what love is, this is that story.
This is the story I was thinking. Like, this is the story like I would give to my wife and be like, okay, this is what I love about comic books. Like, this will make you understand. Like, even just like your significant other that doesn't read comic books, get this. Like, this will, I think, any woman would be like, oh,
there's very little like fighting in it. There's very little like, there's some detective
more like
work.
playful fighting where it was Batman and Catwoman fighting on roof. Or not fighting, but chasing each other. Yeah.
But it's totally an emotional story between two people and their relationship. Yeah. And that relationship really is brought out by what they do. And it goes from, them being late 20s, early 30s to being in their 60s. And you see your hero die.
Yeah.
You see him die.
In a natural way, not like dying, fighting crime. He dies of cancer. And he can't win that battle. And
to see two people love each other for that long, which they clearly do in this story, and just still being like, fuck, man.
Because like there's he has so many like loves, like Vicky Vale and all that, but like Catwoman, like they really make it like they are the same. Like they're not trying to fix each other. They're both orphans. They're both thrill seekers. They did a great job bookending the line from the beginning at the end. everything. I think Jimmy's doing a Kevin Smith crying on.
I'm not. I am very emotional right
He's
now
got
because
pollen in his eyes.
At one point, there's some smoke in the air.
Yeah, it was a touching story.
I had to put it down at one point because there was a moment where I just fucking. Man, Jesus Christ, dude! Yeah, I'm crying.
And I would give this I strongly recommend. That's why it's hard for me to give War of Jokes and Riddles 5 stars.
Well,
when I have to give this one 5
I had
stars.
that review in my mind before I read this book, Joe, and after reading this kind of does what that did for me, but just in a shorter, more concise way. And I really enjoy the emotional
characters. That's what a 5-star book does. You don't need 8 issues.
So in retrospect, okay, based off of this book, I have, this is clearly a 5. 4.5 maybe for Jokes and Riddles based off of what I said before.
Hands down, I cannot recommend, I think this is my new favorite Catwoman story of all time. I loved it. I loved, I cannot emphasize enough. I thought the art was great. I mean, it was basically 9, like a 3x3 panel, for the most part. Yeah, there's some splash or half splash pages.
Yeah, it was just a well-told, well-written, well-drawn
costume
comic.
is an allusion to the animated series.
Totally.
Which is not my favorite, but I like
another
the
thing is, and before this, it was the purple costume in War Jokes and Riddles, which is
so second favorite costume.
You're thinking, why does this guy who wants to take down crime so involved with a woman and in life, you get involved with women.
I also liked him just looking in the mirror with the Danzig gut, kind of just being he's getting a little bit, but he's still in incredible shape, but he's just got that little bit of pot belly.
Sure, and there's the sequence he's trying to lift, and he's it's basically the second half is kind of a montage as them being old.
Yeah, and it strikes as so realistic. It's not someone is not going to or I guess if he lived that long, he's not going to. You always see the story of him dying, versus the Joker, or something like that.
No, he's going to die this, man.
He beat all those people. The only thing he can't beat is cancer, and that's it. And then he takes it.
Or Alzheimer's, because when you have Alzheimer's, your body forgets to beat your heart and shit like that.
And as strong as he is, he can't fight this. And even the way they introduced, they don't just come and say cancer. It may be something other than cancer.
I assumed cancer. Right.
The test results came in. I'm sorry, is all the doctor says. It flashes forward to him telling that story about, because they're going back, arguing about the first time they met again. And he goes, you wouldn't trust my memory because it was supposed to be 3 weeks, but this guy was a
Which is why I'm now thinking Alzheimer's, because it's all about memory. Yeah,
but he still has a great memory. But I also love that illusion. It seems like it's setting up that doomsday clock because there are two worlds colliding, that they are from different worlds, and that this is short-lived. There's no way they can sustain them being married. And, and you got a little glimpse of it, but in the end, you're going to realize that these are this Earth, 2 Catwoman with 1 Batman, and the worlds are just kind of overlapping.
If you ever read Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow, which is Superman's last story, they did Whatever Happened to the Dark Knight, but this is to me that version where you can see a possible outcome to Batman. And are you satisfied? I was. It was crazy, man.
I really think I might try and make my wife read this book.
Because dude.
It did have a strong man, not like you over there, but
I'm sorry. I've personally been going through some things, so this really struck a chord with me.
I mean, it did get it's very sentimental. It's touching.
It was fucking awesome, Joe. It was so good.
Usually they do it. It's over the top and even the proposal of them was a little bit started out because you don't need to beat someone over the head with it. Like I say, even with that cancer quote unquote, we don't know what it is. They didn't beat you over the head with sentiment. It just was a matter of fact, and that's how Bruce Wayne treated it. It's a matter of fact. I have cancer. There's no need to dwell on what can I do about it. Let's talk about
there was also
you're wrong about when we met.
When they walk out of the doctor's office and you see Selina, Batman keeps walking, Bruce Wayne keeps walking, and she stops for a second. And he goes, "Are you okay?" And
yeah, she said, "She's."
Crying. Tom King summed up what a relationship is so well in this book, and and did it in a way that also with the nerdy shit, like talk to Barry, like talk to the Flash, because I know he can go back
Batman
through time.
would do. He would think of ways like not to save himself, but just to make sure everyone was taken care of.
For sure, man.
And there was also like you see Helena, which is their daughter from Earth
with
One.
the bat signal,
right,
and
the original Huntress.
And now she's clearly Batwoman or something, and Selina's looking over the edge because she knows her husband, the man she loves, is dying.
Because she talks to him because she went to talk to Zatanna, and Zatanna says there's nothing you can do. Like, it's time.
Yeah, there's nothing beyond there, right? Fuck, man.
So good.
5 out of 5.
Like, I was a 6 out of 5.
Clearly,
I couldn't emphasize enough how much, if you haven't picked this up, pick this book up. Like, it is so good, and it's a $5 book, unfortunately.
Well, it's an annual, so I think now DC's regular like Batman is $2.99, but for an annual that's 38 pages, I think.
It was a little larger.
I don't know if there were ads or not because I read it without ads, but this is a must buy. This is a must buy.
Let's start getting some of those prestige too. So then next week, next episode, we're going to do The Shadow. We're going to do an episode about The Shadow, unless we get some huge news come out or something that we have to. Well, even then,
if we get like an official Batman's been recast or they're not doing any more DC movies, we'll cover that. But I would really enjoy doing that with you too, Joe.
All right, good. Maybe we can do a little bit of fan casting of The Shadow. I'll come with some characters that I'll try and explain to you.
I'd have to. So with the Dick Tracy, I'd almost be able to do better.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to do, like, even though it's not really Batman, but they're doing a Dick Tracy. Archie Comics is doing a Dick Tracy book.
Yeah.
It came out today, I think, which is kind of like Batman related. The Rogues Gallery is definitely, taken from Dick Tracy. I'm excited about that. All right. We're going to do, in honor of Tom King and his love of Kite Man and like how he described, like, you need to retcon or change the origin, and you can turn any character into a cool character. We're going to discuss maybe some characters we think that should be brought back or retconned or changed up a little bit, a la Kite Man, or even to a certain degree, like what they've been doing with other characters.
Characters who are maybe misrepresented or forgotten. Grant Morrison was really good at doing this, but he did it in a way that kind of jived with, like, so you have like a 50s villain, for example, and you have like Crazy Quill or something, and he tries to reconcile
some people, but he also tries to keep everything canon.
Yeah, I think our goal with this is to bring them into a way that makes sense in a more not darker, but just in a more modern way, maybe.
Okay.
All right, so...
Do you want to go first? Or?
I think I do. Okay. Joe, I want to go... So, a lot of these aren't that thought out, but whatever, who gives a fuck? Because if we're talking about at number 5, I have Penny Plunderer, whose original...
Yeah, so that's the for the reason for the penny in the...
It was originally, but then they retconned it to be Two-Face.
Yeah.
So I figure if you have a dude who is like a coin collector, and... somehow gets his hands on Two-Face's coin. For example, Two-Face flips it. It goes... He can't retrieve it after he gets arrested. You have Penny Plunderer taking that coin and having this long, drawn-out... maybe he's a subject to Two-Face. Maybe he's trying to understand who Two-Face is. Maybe he's not even that bad. Maybe he's just like,
I like that just a coin collector and like an arc with him Two-Face. I think that's cool. Like that would
sure.
That would drive Two-Face nuts. Like he loses his coin.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, drawing a comparison. There was it's happened before in movies or something where someone loses their or even like Gollum, losing the ring. That might crash his
So this guy might be like, he's trying to sell it to maybe different villains or something, or maybe he's just doesn't give a shit and he just wants the coin.
Yeah, I mean,
and again, he might not be
as a collector. I think that'd be cool. Yeah, but refresh my memory in the comics. I just remember as a guy with a suit or something.
He was just someone who stole pennies.
Yeah, he didn't have any defining characteristics, right?
He was a one-shot,
right?
No fucking whatever,
like a mobster from like the 40s or something.
There you go. Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah.
But would you keep that pretty much the same? Like you wouldn't put leotards on him or anything?
No, he would just be a dude who maybe owns a coin shop. And maybe it's even brought to him or something, and he buys it.
Arnold Wesker type guy. Like ventriloquist.
Sure. So maybe mild mannered, but with a sense of I gotta have this. I gotta have this.
I
and
like it.
yeah,
I
cool.
could see that. I mean, I definitely wouldn't see him like being, but neither was Kite Man. But I could see him be. I would be interested in that story.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you could do it.
All right. I think I'm gonna just start with Poison Ivy because for me,
Yeah, right. Because she's
She's-
not that represented nowadays.
well, it's not even that they always try to represent her, and she is a strong, like B or A lister. It's just that it's just convoluted, and it depends on the writer what's going on. Like she doesn't have the defining costume. Like even though Catwoman's costume changes, you have the ears, you sometimes they tailor the whip and all that. I mean, and I like I've said before, I like the goggles look now. The Joker's pretty static. Even the Riddler with the silliness of the open shirt, he's got the Poison Ivy. She started out with like the one piece leaf bathing suit, and now she's got like this black leotard that's covered with a leaf pattern, and it just seems like I imagine her as like a hippie, right? Like, she's fashioned a dress out of leaves, and she's got, some vines and a flower in her hair, but kind of like, those very hippie chicks that I've maybe met at a Grateful Dead concert that walk around barefoot.
I used to go to Dead shows with my dad, and I've been at them under the something. You make out with them once in a while, and then you look and you're like, I don't know.
I've seen some hot ones, and yeah, definitely Poison Ivy would be a hot one. And the other thing is, there are a couple of things, like, that it's just convoluted. Like, okay, is she anti-meat, or if she's all about plants or lives, then how does she eat a salad then? So then you think she would only wear leather and eat meat, but she doesn't do that.
Like, would she attack a vegan, for example?
Right. Converse. And that doesn't make sense to me. It seems like she would be like anti-fur, anti-that, and more like an eco-terrorist or something like that, or like PETA. Like, that makes more sense to me than someone that thinks plants are even though she's a botanist.
You know about Johnny Appleseed, right?
Yeah.
So he was so into plants and apple trees that the narrative goes, the mythology goes, that he tried to eat rocks and dirt but couldn't do it, and he was pissed at himself because he had to eat.
I never heard that part of it.
Yeah, that's what he was. So something maybe like that.
I think that's a little too. I think it's just that she's a vegan that's anti like fur and murder and all that, and she's a botanist. I also don't like the supernatural or like ultra sci-fi element of her being able to control plants. I think if she had antitoxins and it was immune, and she was experimenting and it was immune to everything, and used poisons, like she kind of started off as like poisoning people, using pheromones to manipulate people, and maybe a little bit of like, she can, like Johnny Appleseed type stuff where she can plant seeds and maybe like to accelerate their growth, to do, uproot a house, or
I got a gigantic
break into a safe or something.
Audrey 2 type thing from Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe like that.
Yeah,
maybe.
but they'll tone down a lot. I just think, like PETA or eco-terrorist, that kind of thing, an ultra hippie, because it makes sense in this world, like global warming and all that type of person. Right. Not someone that thinks plants are living, don't eat it, but then she never eats meat, but eats plants. Doesn't make sense.
I could see clearly like a very activist protester type character with what you're describing. Yeah.
Okay.
That's you with Poison Ivy. All right. Who do I have next? I have Polka Dot Man, who is his character was based off of his different polka dots. Who he could make him fly. Basically, he had a suit that looked absurd. Mm-hmm. This version would be someone who might have stolen something from Wayne Tech or something like that, LexCorp, and uses this suit that are different discs that maybe they're different colors for different reasons, like a yellow one can shock you. But I think you could take that character and put him in a direction where he has this very technical suit, and you even have jokes saying like Polka Dot Man, and him using that to really be an adversary for
I think there might be a way to do it, but you haven't really sold me on that that's the right way. I mean, I get, but it's almost kind of like the cellophane shield of Superman in like what's like Quest for Peace or something. I don't know. Is that from like, I don't know, or Captain Boomerang where he takes the boomerangs off. I don't know, like circles. Like, it's gotta have to do something.
And in this version, he wouldn't call himself that.
Right,
he would be called that maybe by like the GCPD or something.
Mm-hmm.
But just a man with a tactical suit that could be, a physical opponent to Batman, and
Yeah, I mean, I think if you flesh it out a little bit more, like, maybe if it was like 5 solid circles on his chest or something, it was like more tactical, like a SWAT uniform. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
in my mind, I guess I'm picturing one where he pulls a disc off and all of a sudden he's like riding on it, like,
yeah,
or like
too sci-fi for my taste.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little bit more sci-fi as we go on,
yeah.
but
I don't know. I'm trying to think of a bet, like what I would do, like really, but yeah, I don't know. It'd be a lot of dead air as I try and figure out how to make Polka Dot Man palatable. Yeah, is that all you got there?
For sure.
Didn't sell me on that one, but okay.
Okay, that's fine. I'm 1 for 2.
Yeah. I guess I'll work my way through the heavier hitters first. And I've mentioned this before, Maxi Zeus. And my idea for Maxi Zeus got downshot because both you and Daniel picked Zach Galifianakis.
Kind of took Zeus. Your impetus for that and put it on my list.
But I imagine, like, my problem with a lot of, like, Batman rogues galleries, and I think some get outshined, is that there are characters that are too similar. Take, obviously, Riddler and Cluemaster. You don't need both of them. Or 4 Clayfaces. You don't need 4 Clayfaces. So you combine the best elements of 2 characters and make them one. For me, like, it's Maxi Zeus and Deacon Blackfire. It makes perfect sense for me to, like, just have a cult there, like a James Jones type person that uses Greek mythology instead of, and like the Jonestown Massacre or something like that. Kind of what Deacon Blackfire did, but you mix that with Maxi Zeus. And I'm imagining, I think my fan cast was the actor from RoboCop 2, the new guy.
Oh my God! Yeah, he was also in Last Action Hero.
Right. Yeah. So he's just more a scraggly version of kind of like just.
But he was a cult leader in RoboCop 2.
Yeah. And it's just an amalgam of Deacon Blackfire and Maxi Zeus. He's got the resources, or like L. Ron Hubbard, like Scientology. He's got the resources to build a giant church, and he's got more maniacal, within
Zeus is real, and I'm him.
Right.
On Earth.
Right. He's a living god.
If you can pay me, and I'll tell you why this is correct.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's using his weapons to, like, strike down people that go against him. Like, just imagine Scientology, but, like, mixed with, like, not the Legion of Doom, but like Hydra or something like that. Or maybe not Hydra, but what's Spectre from James Bond? And
sure, he's got like almost like a paramilitary force. Yeah. That was my number 3.
You had Maxi Zeus too?
I pulled you. I was going to bring that up, and I thought that you would too. But when you described that, and I had like the opposite end with Zach Galifianakis and that.
So now you're admitting your fan cast was wrong, and you just picked it just because you guys had the same actor?
No. But I'm saying that's a really good idea, and I guess I agree with you, and we can take that to a degree where you have a compound with probably more women than men, you can imagine, maybe, because that's really what his
harem and all
his aim is for, and he's got like Batman maybe tries, or like the GCPD tries to infiltrate it, and you got like fucking lightning bolts with these towers or something that like keep you from coming in. And
I thought you liked my Firefly IRA guy, like an IRA.
Oh, I love that, dude. I love that one. Yeah. So that was my number 3, which kind of meshes with yours. So I guess.
And they'll do a False Face, and I know this contradicts what I just said about 2 like characters like Clayface. He's obviously like a low budget Clayface, but I think you could do him in a way like maybe more like Deathstroke or something, where he's like an assassin or like a covert spy, and he's just really good with makeup, or like Chameleon from Spider-Man or something like that. He's not absurdly overpowered like Clayface, which is another one I think they should tone down a little bit, at least make him more human-sized. But
Chameleon was Spider-Man's first villain.
Oh yeah, was it?
Spider-Man number 1? Yeah.
Underrated too. I would like to see him in the movies, but yeah, I don't know. Like I've always liked like Malachi Throne's interpretation in the '66 show, even though he was only in like 2 episodes, like a 1-2-parter. And when you look back, he had such a big impact on me. And I look back and he's one story arc. And I just think he's one of the we've pulled characters from the animated series. I would love to pull, if they were going to pull one character from 66, in my opinion, it wouldn't be King Tut or Egghead, it'd be Falseface. And I think you could do it in a way like I said, like an assassin, like an elite assassin, someone like kind of like an evil James Bond or like Mission Impossible. You just
pull your face off and you're like, holy shit,
do
it's
it with
you.
Technology like Batman has now, where he's got like that almost like CGI, like where he wears a collar and it kind of like puts up like a fake face over it or something like that. So that's almost like real technology now, like where it just it's almost like wire mesh you wear over your head, and then you can just change like your pre-programmed faces you can put on, kind of like what you do with those filters on your phone, but in real life.
Oh yeah! Oh my god! Yeah. Like the iPhone 10 can do
almost,
with like the
that's
emojis.
Near future type technology.
We're almost there.
Yeah.
We're almost at the point now, and this is going to be a little bit weird, but androids that can replicate your favorite porn stars—that's my dream.
Oh yeah, or you can do face match, so you can find someone that looks like your ex-girlfriend or something.
Something like that, and then
that's the next porn
take
thing.
blackmail type photos and
Okay. Well, what's your
Number 2? I have the Condiment King.
Okay.
And I'm going to get...
So everyone always talks about this like he's a bad rogue. He was intentionally made to be silly. Like,
of course, right, yeah. Well, in the 50s, too, like Polka Dot Man and Crazy Quilt were the same thing.
Right, but in that world, like, Batman was taken silly, too. Like, Condiment King was kind of an homage to those characters. He was created for the animated series and was intentionally silly. Like,
correct. And he, like, splashing,
but
like,
they'll always,
ketchup
like, he'll be,
and
like, on
mustard.
top 10 lists of, like, worst Batman villains, and... that doesn't seem to make sense to me because...
Well, I'm going to give you my take.
Yeah. Okay.
You have a guy who runs a business, right?
A condiment business.
A condiment business, right? And he's, like, shipping things across the country.
Gotham Condiment Co.
So he makes the best condiments, which he really loves. Like, he's really...
like the
people
Sausage
call him
King
that,
and
but...
Ferris Bueller.
Like the Sausage King of Chicago. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, people call me the Condiment King, whatever, and he's really well respected. But in these trucks where he's shipping, high-end mustards, ketchup, in these trucks, there are white slaves.
Oh, you're white slave? I thought you were going to go drugs, but white slave trade, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So you got like a prostitute and a barrel of relish?
Something like that.
I mean, I think heroin would have been like cooler.
I think that if you go to that route and you have these people that are real people that are in agony and can't control their lives, and once Batman catches wind of this, man, I would love to see that kind of story. You know what I mean?
I think like smuggling, like it'd be hard. Like he's making so much money off the condiments. Why is he going to be in sex trafficking?
Maybe he has some sort of weird perversion. I don't know.
I like it. I still think like because then you got that like you could pull open like a barrel of relish for the ballpark and be packing up.
That's kind of like from Breaking Bad, Gustavo Fring, type of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the lower. Maybe that's like what DC would say, like you can't do white slaves, but you can do this.
They made Mad Hatter a fucking pedophile.
Sure, but I think that like if you find out, or if Batman finds out that this is really like who this guy who pretends to be, mid-level businessman. Fuck, man. I think I think you could have a good story there.
My 4 is Condiment King, but think about it. He has this condiment factory, but in the barrels of relish, he's shipping.
Is that
heroin.
for real?
No.
Okay.
My next one. So I might not remember, like it just. Queen of Hearts. Do you remember Queen of Hearts?
Was that a part of the Royal Flush Gang, or
no? So she was like a serial killer. She died. It was in the story arc, The Idiot Route, in the Breyfogle era, like the early '90s. But her thing was she dressed up like a queen, but she had a drill that would drill out your heart, and she collected hearts. And
do
put
not
them in
remember
cradles.
this character.
So she died at like in that arc. I think she really had one arc, maybe one before that, but I think it was, and it was just that's why I think like it was an underrated character. Because I actually think no, it was just that, and it was Denny O'Neil, I believe, that wrote that story, The Idiot Route, and she was a tertiary character that died halfway through this arc. But it was one of the first books, like maybe the first 10 books I picked up, I was always wondering, like, what happened. I found out that she wasn't really a character, and I'm like, I love that idea. Like, and recently in All-Star Batman, I didn't finish the arc, but we just reviewed the End of the Earth or whatever bullshit. The next story behind that starts off with like these pirates, like they're the descendants of real pirates, and they're still smuggling, and they're on this ship. It was kind of cool. Like, I really liked how the story started, and it turns out that the this guy who's the descendant of Blackbeard, Batman. The first issue was really cool. He goes in, he finds him with he's got clamps opening up his heart chest. His heart's been taken out, and the way Batman describes it, like, you can tell, like, it was done so quickly that he was still alive when his heart was ripped out, and it was used, like, while his heart was inside him, it was used to torture him by squeezing his heart. So I think, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, please tell me they're bringing back Queen of Hearts. And then it turned out not. But then that's got me, like, with this whole Kite Man thing, I'm like, please bring back Queen of Hearts. Because you could totally do something like that. I mean, she doesn't have to dress up like a queen, she would be like a serial killer and, like, Queen of Hearts. Like, she collects hearts, just the idea.
Kind of like, who was the, when we were in New Orleans, the famous killer.
Yeah, Madame LaLaurie.
Similar to that, to a degree, maybe?
She, like, tortured slaves. So.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, like, could she, like, I'd imagine she'd have a drill that you could drill in, and then she could, rip your heart out, which is what, did her torch. Yeah, and she just collects hearts. So, no costume necessarily. You really can't imagine, like, she'd have to have some cool look to her, but I wouldn't want to go as tacky as, like, her wearing, like, a gown and a crown. But, I think we're due for more strong female characters.
Sure.
And even the interpretation in the 90s, was as short-lived as it was really cool. I would love to see her brought back and, something cool done with it.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
That might be, I don't know if we're going to vote for who we think each other's best is, but...
unless you want.
My number one, this is where I'm going to go really sci-fi, Joe.
Okay.
So I have Clock King.
Oh, I have Clock King too.
Okay. Yeah. Your take's going to be completely different than mine. Mine is, he is maybe in league with Reverse Flash, who is Dr. You know more about the Flash.
Dr. Zayas.
Dr. Z, can I play the piano anymore? Of course you can. Well, I couldn't before.
Dr. Zayas.
So he's in. So we have a character here who is obsessed with time, right? Like he was introduced in the animated series, right?
Yeah. Well, no, that version was, but there has been Clock Kings in the Batman comics from like the 60s. He was a sillier character.
I want a man.
He's also in the 66 show.
I want a man who can really control time. And he's using the Flash. He's using the Speed Force.
I love that episode when that was in the first episode of the Clock King. I think it was from season 4 of Batman the Animated Series. He does the same thing.
I did not see that.
See, once again, people want to piss all over season 4, but it was awesome.
I don't want to piss all over season 4.
Right? So he stole an invention that he couldn't like travel through time, but he could slow it down enough so like he could counter Batman's punches, and so he could slow it down so he could walk right into a bank, steal some shit and walk right out, and you could see people kind of like slowly moving. And so there's a part in the episode where Batman's chasing him in their car chase, and he uses it, and now Batman's traveling, but now it's like the equivalent of traveling 1,000 miles an hour because all these cars are standing still, and if he hits something, they say it's going to be like a atomic bomb.
You're going to take off the universe, right?
Well, it would just be a huge explosion because of the friction or whatever. Like,
sure.
It was really cool. Like,
so this version to me is someone who can do that, but somehow gets a hold of Batman and forces him to deal over and over again with his parents' death.
The Groundhog Day.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And
I could see that being a really cool story arc with him too, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean,
you have to know who Batman is then.
Well, so he, in my mind, he's in league with Reverse Flash, he vibrates through time, but whatever reason, this is going to be like an event book in my mind, where it's like a crisis type, only focused on Batman. He has this information. How, Joe? I don't know yet, but he does, and he forces him to relive that day over and over, and is trying to make him go crazy. Kind of like in Groundhog Day, but kind of like how they make him go insane in that labyrinth and in the Court of Owls.
Oh yeah.
So and ultimately, there'll be something that pulls Batman out of it, but Batman's clearly fucking fucked up by this whole ordeal, and I'm not writing this book, but that's my idea for this character.
No, I love, like, especially, like, they changed his suit from brown to black in season 4. Like, I think the character just needs to be added to the comic books. Like, I don't understand, like, I mean, Harley Quinn is great and all, but I think the best character that came out of the animated series is Clock King.
For sure, dude.
I mean, they didn't invent it, but they totally, even more so than Mr. Freeze, reinvented him and made him so cool. I don't understand why they haven't brought him to the comic books. Even in the first one, where it's just a matter of, like, even outside of the sci-fi, and I could totally see, I'm not against that at all, but even just a matter of, like, he meticulously plans things so thoroughly that he can walk into a bank and time everything out so that he can rob a bank and no one notices.
Yes.
Like, that's Clock King. Like,
yeah, like, you go in and out, and maybe, like, you see, like, a coattail of someone, like, breeze by, and that's it.
I love, like, even, like, the eyeglass clocks, and I love that he's got the hand of the clock as a cane. I love, like, just the look of him. Like, they did a great job with that character.
Yeah.
Like,
in my depiction, I think he will be kind of the minion of someone bigger, like, not like Monitor or Anti-Monitor or something.
It's also the story that you could use it, like, you could have that ironic twist where the time could be used to, like, revert him so that he's, like, back in jail at the end and he has no recollection of, knowing who Bruce Wayne is. And it could, it could be used against him.
You can also do the bullshit thing where it was all in his mind,
right.
maybe.
But when you think about it, like, no, I mean, like, you think about it, he'd go, like, your plot point, but then it's used against him, so he's put back in jail at, like, where he was in the beginning, and then however he escaped is stopped. Like, even though he planned it out so meticulously, it's stopped because Batman now knows how he escaped the first time, so now he's surprised, like, how did Batman know I escaped? But he has no recollection of doing all this.
Right, yeah. And, like, it's like, just like, he's in the cell with him, he's like, no matter what you fucking think you can do, I'm ahead of you.
We're throwing these ideas out to you, Tom King. Get on them, like, for free.
That Clock King one, man, now that I'm thinking about it, that might be the best one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Definitely. I vote for, Clock King. I love Clock King. It's a shame we only got 2 episodes to look at, really.
You got one more? Yeah?
I think that was it, wasn't it?
Well, you said you had a Clock King.
That is Clock King. I just talked to you about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me look through your list again real quick.
Here's what I've done. I mean, there's other ones. Like I said, I think the IRA. I think a lot of Elseworlds. Like I said, I could totally see Cold War. Mr.
I would say my vote for you, unless we're both voting on we both came to this Clock King.
Yeah, I liked a lot of your. I liked all your ideas too. Like I really liked.
You didn't like. My worst one was definitely
Polka Dot Man.
For sure. I'm sorry.
I liked the Penny Plunder. Maxi Zeus was really my idea. You just wrote it down on your piece of paper.
Yeah.
Connie McKing, I think, should be heroin than the sex trafficking, but I still like the idea. Yeah. And Clock King, obviously, we're on the same page with. So
yeah, I guess I'm either voting for your Max. I guess I'm voting for your Maxi Zeus.
Okay.
So wow, holy shit! I came up with some ideas that Joe didn't hate. That's crazy.
Plenty more. All right. Well, I guess maybe we should get out of here, huh?
Yeah, man.
Next episode, pending some huge revelation in the news. Shadow special, huh?
You have to tell me what to read, and
I'll give you some more assignments or something.
I'll do it. But for
like
sure.
You made you read some stuff before, but I'll give you.
Well, I did the Rocketeer in the issue 1 of your of the
I'll
Shadow
give you year
run,
1 because that's a really good story, I think, and it's recent. And then if you read the Shadow Batman,
which is complete now, or okay,
6 issues. So, all right.
Did you read Doomsday Clock yet?
No, I didn't. So I didn't get it in printing. I need it, but maybe if you can borrow it, lend it to me or something.
Well, I'm borrowing it from our old co-host Nick right now.
Mm-hmm.
I read that book, and if you like Watchmen, it's for sure Watchmen Part 2.
I'll try and find it, but they were sold out at the store, and I asked
it's
for
hard
late.
to find.
Yeah, so I asked if they would come up with a second printing, if they had it. I also asked for all like the prestige format Batman books that are coming out, so I can review those.
Did you read the DC Holiday Special, the Denny O'Neil one?
No. It's not good. Okay. But yeah, you out there, if you got ideas for how you would reinvent, or if you a character, let us know. You can email us at some email that I don't pay attention to.
It's batinfo@Bruce Wayne's World. I do get that redirected to batinfo@Bruce Wayne's World.
Or you can message me on Bruce Wayne's World on Facebook, or Jimmy on Twitter.
At Bruce Wayne World. There's no S in the Wayne. Now I am
Or half-assed operation. We couldn't afford the S.
right. Twitter's like, you could pay us. So I used to not monitor that. I really think I am now. Joe, would you agree to an extent?
Yeah. Your boyfriend on there, that guy.
Comedian.
Yeah. Okay.
He's pretty cool, dude.
All right. Yeah. So reach out and hey, so, you know what you could do to help us out? Like when your significant other or maybe a coworker leaves their phone on their desk, steal their phone, go onto their podcast app, make them subscribe to our podcast. They don't have to listen to it. Whatever. They're none the wiser. Put it back on their desk. That helps us a lot.
And more importantly, when you're doing this,
podcast.
You need to make sure that when you're stealing your coworker's phone and you coyly got their password, give us a 5-star.
Right. 5-star review too. Make them subscribe. And, and make do your nice little Christmas gesture. Give us a review. It helps us out a lot. I don't know. But I get it. Hey, I listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't always review or
I've not reviewed any of the
phones.
podcasts I listen to.
I've reviewed a couple of them.
Maybe after doing this, I've realized that, but
it helps. It does help. So
it does help us.
If you like
guys.
us, if you don't, I get it. Don't waste your time.
Also important, I want to bring up
why are you listening though? I don't get why. If you don't like it,
Patreon on the BatmanUniverse.net page. There's a lot of really good stuff there. Also, just really quick, want to give a shout out to Signal of Doom by David Finn. It's a good show.
Our friend down under.
He's down under, mate. That was really bad.
Yeah, you gotta think they must get. I wonder if they do American accents, like. Oh, we're under Donald Trump.
Oh, we love Donald Trump up there.
I wonder if he does that.
Man, Joe, what a good episode, yeah?
I think so.
All right, cool.
All right.
Signing off.
All right.
Jimmy
Get the fuck
Terzis.
out of my house.
Bye.
Bye.